Should work now. Okay. I'm ready. Here we go. We're watching some Mearsheimer. I'm gonna watch this from the start. I tried watching this before. Unfortunately, things did not go well with the internet. And Dugin, my favorite philosopher, my two favorite people in the entire world are gonna, I don't know what, talk, exchange ideas in the marketplace of ideas or whatever. Let me see. I'm gonna make sure that anybody. Ooh, 6. Oh, reconnection successful because the internet is not working well. Oh God, internet is just king today. Oh God, I thought it would be better. All right. Mm, okay. I was supposed to whatever. I was supposed to. Mm. Hello. Oh yeah, I was supposed to. Yeah, the internet is not working well today. We're going to watch the Mearsheimer thing. I'm trying to watch it before. Just to watch a just here to watch a trash fire. Are you here still? Are you here still? Um Very active on the Blair White video. I think we're gonna bash Blair White tonight again because it got some views. Game complete. Ooh, very nice. Congratulations. Congratulations. There's this new shooter, actually, that's out on Steam. Is this stream just loading for anyone else? Try refreshing. Um, okay. All right, let's watch. Is it better now? Can anybody tell me if the stream quality is better now? Are we back? Are we back on track? Hmm. Hoping to do some nice extreme streaming tonight, but it might prove to be a difficult task. Let me check the comments. Whoa. Uh, I think it's working. Okay, we're gonna be watching some Mearsheimer. I think we're gonna bash Blair White again because, oh gosh, we got some nice engagement from the Blair White video. I got some criticism. So I'm gonna do my best to substantiate my deep argumentation. Um, I'm gonna be on my best behavior. One person just wrote me in the comments, you should do research. Should do research on Blair White. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm on my way. I'm on my way to do research on Blair White. I got nothing better to do with my life than do research on Blair White. Is it a blackout? No, it just ended. I started stream because the blackout ended and we have light now. If there was a blackout, I'd not have light. I'd be streaming in darkness with my battery, but yeah, I should have addressed her arguments. And her arguments in that particular video that I watched, the arguments were, look guys, there's this stat that less people are LGBT now, and COVID made people trans. Curious that so many people became trans during COVID, and I think many young people were deprived of their lives, and I'm sure we're on the right track with the dropout. Not enough people stopped being trans. I've been telling that for years now, and I feel vindicated. Thanks. Okay. What am I supposed to say to that? What exactly am I supposed to do with that kind of argumentation? Jesus Christ almighty. There's this weird dude that came to the comments and just started misgendering Blair White as well. So I had to correct them every step of the way. I made the weirdest arguments about it as well. She wants to be the only real trans online and she's grifting for the right. Yeah. Even though the right tells her to grow out a mustache or a beard or whatever. That would be the best thing that she could do for the big tent. Ay, ay, ay. Very weird. Very weird behavior. Okay. Yeah, so the weird misgender like in some big own to be an asshole. Yeah, I know. People are so proud of themselves when they're being assholes, I noticed. I've noticed that people are really tend to take pride in their assholishness. Also, press like on the stream. It'd be my pleasure if you do me the honor of pressing like on the stream. Oh, it should be. Yeah, the chat is showing on the stream. I can see it on this on the. Yeah, it is. It should. Oh, air sirens. Air sirens. Oh, it's not. Actually, it's not showing on this screen. Hold on, I have to fix this. Uh, I have no clue why the chat is not on screen all of a sudden. Oh, maybe I'll get hit by a drone today. Holy crap. Let's check what the danger is. Oh my gosh. So thrilling. Okay, I don't know. It's just a generic, which is weird to say, but it's just a generic air siren. The whole of Ukraine is in a missile threat. MiG-31 jets takeoff was recorded. So I don't know. It might be something, it might be nothing. It might be a nothing burger. I might live to survive another day. Isn't it exciting? Shouldn't more people be thrilled to watch an Air Siren stream? I'm just here to watch an Air Siren stream. Okay, what's wrong with the chat? Oh gosh. Technical issues all the way. Technical stream. That's not good. I like having chat on screen. I definitely want to have a Mearsheimer. You should, yeah, okay, I read that comment already. What the hell is wrong with the chat? Come on, come on. Oh, come on. We're not gonna have chat today? Man. Whatever. I guess we don't get to have chat tonight. I can still see the chat. So don't worry. Oh, BS seem to be malfunctioning right now. I have no clue why. I could restart OBS. Hold on, I'll restart OBS. The stream will pause for a second. Check you out. Good channel. Well, that's cool. I mean, Mearsheimer, I don't like Mearsheimer either, so I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Mearsheimer either. There you go. The chat is back. We're back. We're back, right? We're back. Is everything okay now? The chat should be on the screen now. Everything should be okay now. We are back with everything working. Good, good. All right, let's go. Let's watch it. Professor John Mearsheimer.
Terms that Putin has laid down to settle this war.
Oh yeah, I need my headphones. Apologies. Oh god, I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place just like the internet. I'm a failed streamer. I'm not a cool streamer or whatever. Person like Blair White. Calling a genocidal propagandist a philosopher is cringe. That's true. But then again, Mearsheimer is a cringe international relations realist that thinks that Ukraine should just fall because big power interests and realisms. So it's gonna be a discussion. It's gonna be a discussion. I watched a fragment of this and it's interesting. Let me just say that.
Terms that Putin has laid down to settle this one that I believe no American president.
To settle this one, to settle the invasion that he started. That's what a joke. Just change around some names and terms and you'll see how ridiculous this sounds. The terms that Hitler has put forward to settle this one, no American or no allies will ever agree to Putin's terms. To Hitler's terms, I'm sorry. Hitler was just feeling threatened by the West. He was just exercising his self-defense. What a joke.
President would ever accept.
You can blame us, you can call us aggressors, imperialists, and so on, but for us, Ukraine in NATO means existential threat.
Would
You
President
cannot blame us for wanting to erase a nation and for wanting to build an empire. Who has not done that? May they throw the first stone, right? Am I right? Who's never done some empire building in their life? Come on. Don't be like that. Don't blame us.
Biden wants is for Ukraine to lose the war on Donald Trump's watch.
But that's just stupid. That's just stupid. Like, oh yeah, this is just for some context. This discussion happened 10 months ago. So we have the pleasure or displeasure, privilege or lack of privilege of having hindsight 2020. Also, I'm gonna be listening in outside because I am currently in Kiev. We are currently under air siren, and there is a threat of high-speed missiles hitting the city. Speaking of, what a brilliant thing to listen to why Ukraine should fall, why I listen in and wonder if the place that I'm in is going to be hit by a missile or a drone. So much fun. So much fun. But yeah, let's listen to the arguments and discuss them, I guess. So reasonable, Mr. Mearsheimer.
Not on his watch.
When the people in the West say never Putin will use nuclear weapon, they are wrong.
Also, what a silly statement to make. That, oh, you say Putin will never use nuclear weapons? You're wrong. Well, of course, you should never say never. That is the point of nuclear deterrence, that there's always a probability that the nuclear weapons will be used. But the nuclear deterrence is also very strong, so that probability is always very, very low because nobody wants to start a nuclear exchange. There's a reason why the deterrence is so strong. Oh, it's not beer, it's cider. I'm drinking it because I'm watching Mearsheimer and Dugin. So I need to be a little bit relaxed, not to stress myself out. Apple cider. I'm drinking apple cider.
President Trump, throughout his campaign, he has said that.
Yes. I wanted to address what was said earlier, that because we have this hindsight 2020, I'm going to address the statement by Mearsheimer that apparently Biden wanted Ukraine to lose, but on Trump's watch. That is a nonsensical statement. Biden, right before he left office, gave the permission for Ukraine to use longer range missiles to attack Russia directly. So the idea that somehow Biden just wanted Ukraine to lose, but not under his term, but under Trump's term, is just ludicrous. There's no evidence, there's nothing that substantiates that claim. Sarah says, if only Dugin was the victim of the little car incident and not his daughter. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Alexander Dugin.
He's going to resolve the conflict in a matter of 24 hours. Now, I understand that may be a figurative speaking.
Oh yeah, since this is from 10 months ago, people were still speculating on whether or not Trump was going to resolve the conflict within 24 hours. We all know how that went. 24 hours, 6 months, 100 days. I want a ceasefire. Give me a ceasefire. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 5 weeks. Actually, I don't need a ceasefire. Actually, I need a ceasefire again. Actually, sanctions. But actually, I will give some exemptions to Hungary from the sanctions. Tomahawks. I might give Ukraine tomahawks. But no, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to give them. Because, and that is the wildest thing that Trump has said recently about Russia. There is no final straw that will convince Donald Trump that Putin does not want to end this war. There is nothing that Putin can do, literally nothing that Putin can do that will convince Trump that he is not ready to sit down at the negotiating table. Which directly translates to there is nothing that Putin can do that will make me increase pressure on him. Great. I wish Biden was more productive during this term instead of doing that last minute. Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. That is a whole other discussion, especially since his military advisors have been telling him to give those missiles earlier, but he was just ignoring them. The fact is that the West, the so-called collective West, has been giving Russia a big advantage on the nuclear escalation ladder. Russia has been effectively being able to freeze the West in its tracks because the West has been shaking in its boots, being afraid of nuclear Armageddon. So that's basically where we're at, where we've been at for a few years now, actually.
But what is the outlook for the resolution of the conflict in Ukraine right now?
Yeah, I'll say
See, when arguments are being made, I respond to arguments. I'm sorry to do this a little side tangent, but when I'm answering to a stupid person that has nothing to say, what am I supposed to create responses to non-existing arguments out of thin air? The West loves appeasing Putin for very stupid reasons. Yeah. Actually, I've heard recently that the United Kingdom has announced that it is ready to fully involve itself in the war, and that would include sending troops. I'd like to see that. It is very sad that Russia has, and I don't think it's a hot take at this point, Russia has more reliable allies than Ukraine. Russia's allies actually sent troops to the front line. In addition to the weapons. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane?
words and then turn it over to Professor Dugin. There's no question that President Trump has said that the one issue area in the world, which is Ukraine, that he's going to really fundamentally alter American foreign policy, is in that conflict. And as you said, he says he's going to shut it down very quickly.
I look Southern? What are you, Southern American? You mean I look Southern American? You mean this shirt? Well, you know, that's fine. I'm okay looking Southern. Hello, Phil Carl Parker. We're watching Mearsheimer, and we're watching Dugin. We're listening to the arguments, and we are talking about it. Apparently, I do not address the arguments enough. So I'm hoping I can remedy that. I can remedy that problem, and we can better ourselves as people as we do analysis of international relations in the war. Exciting stuff, for sure.
I do not believe he's going to shut it down very quickly.
Well, that is a prediction that certainly came true. But, and prepare yourselves. The thing is, we have hindsight is 2020 on our side. Because once again, this discussion took place 10 months ago. So while Mearsheimer is correct that Trump did not end this conflict in 24 hours or 100 days or whatever arbitrary number he gave, the reason why Mearsheimer gives why Trump would not solve this conflict quickly is absolutely incorrect. He could not be any more incorrect. We're about to hear it. So once we hear it, I'm going to comment on it because it's just comical to me. The argumentation that Mearsheimer puts forward is comical to me. And it's not just because of hindsight.
I believe he may have good intentions, but
I think that's a laugh right off the bat. He might have good intentions. That's just what a joke. Saying that Trump has good intentions. Whatever.
it's not going to happen. And the reason is that he would have to accept terms that Putin has laid down to settle this one that I believe no American president would ever accept.
By the way, Trump is actually quite open to accepting Putin's terms, interestingly enough. Trump is actually more than open to accepting those terms, as we have been seeing.
And specifically, Putin has said before he will even negotiate, this is to begin negotiations to come up with a peace settlement, the West, and here we're talking mainly about the United States and Ukraine have to accept two conditions. One, that Ukraine will never be in NATO, either de jure or de facto, that Ukraine will be a neutral state.
And by neutral state, Russia, of course, means under the influence of Russia, just like Belarus. There's no such thing as neutrality when you're Russia's neighbor. If you're neutral near Russia, it means that Russia controls you. That is the reality of the situation. That is the real meaning of being neutral when your direct neighbor is Russia. It means that you are part of their sphere of influence, part of their world. Oh yeah. He tried to negotiate behind Ukraine's back. Absolutely.
A genuinely neutral state. And furthermore,
what a joke to say genuinely neutral state when that is absolutely not what Russia wants, not by a long shot.
That the West and Ukraine have to accept the fact that Crimea and the 4 oblasts that the Russians have now annexed are permanently lost.
And that is even worse. This whole Crimea and the 4 oblasts are now ours. That is genuinely a condition that should be unacceptable to anyone, because that just means that any big country with nuclear weapons can now attack their neighbor. Yeah, genuinely, they can just attack their neighbor, do a quick land grab, and then say, okay, we're done now. We are done now. We got our land, but you know what? What we annexed is now permanently ours. Well, you know, we're stopping. We did it. War's over. What kind of precedent does this set for international relations between countries? What sort of brave new world are we trying to march into when those without nuclear powers would be up for grabs? actually, unironically.
Permanently part of Russia. And
Then later they do that again. Oh yeah, of course. Then not to mention that Russia could just invade again, but that's a given. With Russia, that's just a foregone conclusion. Unless there is also one scenario in which Russia would not decide to invade again, and that is if it could just replace the government in Ukraine into a Lukashenko-like regime. If Ukraine would become basically Belarus, then Russia would be content with it. I can assure you of that. If Ukraine had the status of Belarus, then Russia would have no complaints. It would not launch any invasions.
again, Putin is saying, before I even begin negotiations to settle this, to come up with a peace agreement, you have to accept those two conditions. I find it hard to imagine the United States, even President Trump, accepting those two conditions.
He's very willing to accept those conditions, and he has shown so on several occasions. On several occasions, he has been trying to pressure Ukraine to give up territory, actually.
I find it hard to imagine the Ukrainians accepting those two conditions. Now, one could argue that President Trump is a very special person, and he has views that are outside the mainstream. And he is, after all, the president of the United States. But the problem is that he is surrounded by people who have Russophobia in the extreme.
This statement I find just, this is a bad joke, because while you could make this argument maybe during Trump's first term when he had actual people that knew what they were talking about surrounding him, he just surrounded himself with yes men in this term. Who are these rabid Russophobes that are surrounding him? Who are those, wait, he's gonna use the term,
And have been super hawkish on you.
who are those hawks on Ukraine that are surrounding Trump right now? Who? JD Vance? Witkoff? Kellogg? Yeah, that's my dog in the lower left. Yeah. His name is Fido. He's the reason why I come back to Poland from time to time, because he misses me a lot. I love him a lot. He often is very sad when I'm here in Ukraine, so I try to visit him as often as I can. So I sort of have him here on the screen in the lower left corner. Yeah, he's nice. He often does little pranks on me when I stream in Poland. He will come to the room, he will steal a random item, run away, look at me because he'll want me to chase him, and then just drop the item because he just wanted me to chase him and play with him. He's a crazy boy. And sometimes in the middle of the stream, he'll just come in the room and start whining and barking because he'll want me to walk him. And then I'll have to put the stream on a waiting screen and go out for a walk. Because Fido is the boss of me. You know what? He's a cute boy. He's a cute boy, so... Look at him. Look at him. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. But yes, where were we? With the Mearsheimer? Ah, yes. Trump being surrounded by yes men. That's absolutely not true. He's actually... the opposite is true. He's actually surrounded with a bunch of incompetent yes men that just mess up. Witkoff being the biggest example of the most incompetent buffoon that has been ever sent to solve or negotiate any conflict in history. Well, maybe not in history, but the amount of horrible blunders that Witkoff has presented to us throughout this year is just mind-numbing. When he went to Russia, he misunderstood what they said. He came back to the US with great news that Russia agreed to this, this, and this. And then it turned out that no, actually, the complete opposite is true. And then Witkoff had to clarify 5 times what he meant. It's just, what a mess. What a mess. But that's been the history of the peace negotiations this year. So the idea that Trump is surrounded with these Russophobic hawks that just want to fight Russia and are pro-Ukraine is, I have no clue where Mearsheimer got this impression, but 10 months later, we can confidently say that that is incorrect. We can confidently say that Mearsheimer was full of it. Also consider pressing like on the stream. It would mean the world to me. It would mean the world to me if you pressed like on the stream. Oh yeah, also I do a bit of journalism here in Ukraine, and I need funds to do the journalism regarding children in war. So if you want to support my work, then come to the site page and consider donating or subscribing.
Ukraine for years. It's not like Trump is bringing into office with him a good number of people who share his views about shutting down the Ukraine war.
Yes, actually, Trump has brought into his office exclusively people that are yes men, that agree to everything that he says. That is how he formed his current cabinet. So actually, yeah, yes.
He's bringing into power, as is very clear, a bunch of hawks.
No. Oh God, I wish that he was surrounded by a bunch of hogs that would just tell him, hey, Mr. President, send more missiles. Mr. President, send more tanks. Mr. President, send more excavators. Mr. President, send more money to Ukraine. Mr. President, send more anti-air missiles. I wish Trump was just surrounded by these Russophobic hawks. God, I wish that was the world that we lived in. But it's not. Spoilers. It's not by a long shot, but one can dream.
And therefore, Trump is
It would be so great if we lived in Mearsheimer's world.
Going to be surrounded by people who are not going to want to accept the conditions that Putin has laid out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody who's sane and not absolutely pro-Russian would accept these terms. I think if you just accept these terms, you'd have to have a few screws loose, to be quite honest with you.
So my view as to what's going to happen here is that this is going to be settled on the battlefield, and I believe the Russians are going to win an ugly victory.
And that is not a foregone conclusion. It all depends on Ukraine's ability to reform on the one hand, and on Western support on the other. There is a plethora of factors here at play. It's not just a foregone conclusion that Ukraine does not stand a chance in the conflict. So do not let anybody, any international relations experts try to just persuade you that Ukraine has no chance of winning in the battlefield.
Process of doing it, and at some point you're going to get a frozen conflict or you're going to get an armistice, and the end result is you're going to have bad relations between Russia on one side and the West and Ukraine on the other side.
Yes, because just agreeing to all of the agreeing to all of the demands of Russia would create such good relations, right? That would foster such good relationship between Ukraine and Russia and the West. What is this guy on?
For as far as the eye can see. I think this is a terrible situation, but I don't think that Trump is going to change things in any meaningful way and be
That part is true. Trump is definitely not changing anything, and actually no, that's not true either. Trump has actually changed things for the worse because he has opened a diplomatic channel with Russia and he has ended Russia's diplomatic isolation. So that's not true. He has changed some things in meaningful ways, but the thing is that he has changed them for the worse. The whole Alaska meeting and many other steps that Trump has taken have actually changed. Russia has been bombing Ukraine far more this year than last year. I felt much more safe in Kyiv last year than this year. A lot more people died this year. Things have been getting worse and worse and worse. The attacks on cities have been getting far worse. Mearsheimer says that Pokrovsk is the final night for Ukraine. That's stupid. Mearsheimer does not know what he's talking about. Mearsheimer absolutely does not know what he's talking about. Oh, speaking of Pokrovsk, I'm not sure if you've seen, there's a really nice documentary that has been made about Pokrovsk. I just kind of like to promote it whenever I can, so you know what? I'm gonna do it now. It's about a journalist who has spent a year in Pokrovsk documenting the front line. It's like this is like this is the document that I like sharing wherever I can, because I just feel like it's worth it. So I'm gonna share this here, and I'm gonna share it in the side chat as well. It's a very well done documentary. Hold on, I want to sign in. Sorry for pausing all of a sudden, but I feel like this is, if you have not seen this documentary, then I highly recommend that you do. Okay, let's continue.
able to come up with a meaningful peace agreement.
On my side, I can only agree totally with what Mr. Mearsheimer has said. And I would add the situation is more radical that you have described because the conditions put forward by Mr. Putin officially don't correspond to the real intentions of Russian Federation. So that was a kind.
I actually feel that this is very interesting. Okay, this is very interesting because he just said, yeah, all those crazy demands, all those crazy demands that the West is rejecting, that's not really what Russia wants. Russia actually, in reality, wants a lot more. Hello, Vladimir. This is just, this is the reduced demands. Russia actually genuinely wants a lot more.
Kind of minimal conditions.
Minimal. Those are the minimal demands. 4 oblasts, no NATO. All this is just minimal demands. These are minimalistic demands. All those crazy maximalist demands. I just love how honest about all of this Dugin is he does not give a crap. He just does not care.
That were put put in the front, precisely because nobody could accept them on the West. So, in the reality, the situation with Ukraine is much more existential and important for Russia. We could not tolerate any kind of Ukraine hostile to Russia, any versions in any borders, inside any borders. The point of agreement.
I'm gonna translate this statement, okay? But it is very simple. Oh, oh, we are out of air siren. I think the danger has passed. I'm not gonna get bombed tonight. It's okay. Yep. I'm not getting droned or bombed tonight. It's not cool. But anyway, translation. What he's basically saying is hostile Ukraine. What does that mean? Well, it basically means independent Ukraine. Any Ukraine that wants to move away from Russia is hostile Ukraine. And under any shape or form, that kind of Ukraine cannot be tolerated. He's basically saying, to be blunt, Ukraine can either exist under some control of Russia or not at all. Because any sort of existence of Ukraine that is not within control of Russia is an existential threat to Russia. That is what he is saying in no uncertain terms.
Consensus inside of Russia that the war will lead with the West in the Ukraine should end with our victory and nothing less. That is not just the vision of Mr. Putin. That is the condition of Putin to stay in power and to say.
Yes. Also, Russia has that. Dugin is being so blunt here. He's just saying, I guess I can appreciate that to the degree that he is not saying, oh, it's because of NATO. Oh, it's because we want to defend the Russian speakers. We just want to stop the genocide of the Russians. No, he's not saying any of that. First of all, Ukraine cannot exist as an independent country outside of Russia because that is an existential threat. And second of all, Russia has just committed so much to this invasion that if it doesn't win, then the regime is in danger. So Russia has to keep committing to the invasion because otherwise Putin's regime will collapse. I love how blatantly blunt and honest Dugin is about this. I love how Dugin is being very blunt about all the horrible goals and motivations that Russia actually holds without all the usual excuses. Just, just Ukraine cannot be independent. If it's independent, then it's a threat to us. It either under our control or it will be destroyed. And also, we have to preserve our regime. It's simple.
Save our political regime.
He just said it. He just plainly said it.
Power and to save our political regime.
We have to save our political regime. He's not just like he does not use the typical excuses that are made for the West. I really wonder what Mearsheimer's response to this is gonna be. Is he gonna address this? Is he gonna say anything? Is he just gonna say nothing? Is Mearsheimer going to react in any way to any of these revelations?
So that is much more than just hawkish or
Oh, the internet is not working very well. It's buffering. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Warzone internet. My apologies.
imperialist reactions or desires or dreams or
Also, yes, it absolutely is imperialist reactions and dreams. What do you mean? What would you call this kind? Okay, it's not imperialist ambitions if you say this neighbor of ours cannot exist independent of us because it's an existential threat to us. That's not an okay. That's thank you, Alexander Dugin.
or something like that, of emerging once again independent power in the Eurasia. It is much more than that. So, and I think nobody in the West understands that correctly, because for us to be or not to be as Russia, as Russian Federation.
Yes, I forgot that also Ukraine seems to be some very weird threat to Russian identity itself. Ukrainian identity seems to be viewed as some kind of a threat to Russian identity itself. That's a whole ass weird inferiority complex that Russia does its best to camouflage as the feeling of superiority. I'm not sure how to explain this, but
means to win or to lose the war in Ukraine. That's much more than the conditions that Putin has put forward. And Mr.
also that is very interesting to see. I hate both of these guys, but this person to the left, Mearsheimer, he sees himself as this cold, calculating, realist, international relations, power balance, you know, multipolar world order. And then he hears the esoteric ramblings of Dugin. I just wonder how he'll square that circle here, how he'll fit this into his model of reality, and how he'll react and respond. I'm actually quite morbidly curious how this conversation will go, what direction it will take.
Mearsheimer has very correctly explained, and I agree totally with this opinion, that these minimal and unsupportable and unacceptable conditions that Putin has put forward, they have no chance to be accepted by the future administration of Mr. Trump. With his agreement,
I mean, he has shown willingness to accept all of it, so that prediction has not actually necessarily come true.
or against his will, I think there is the kind of geopolitical realist, if you want, logic that the West and United States could never, I would say, never accept not only expressed and explicit claims of Russia, but much less implicit claims of Russia that they go much more
Oh boy.
further than just the.
Oh yeah, just so you know, Dugin tends to ramble. Dugin tends to ramble on for a really long periods of time. He just goes on and on and on and on and on, and doesn't say much while he does it.
Keep in our possession the territories we have won, or neutral status of Ukraine. So Mr. Mearsheimer has explained very well the realist balance of power in this situation, and I think as well that we need to separate in Russian understanding of Trump's administration and Trump's factor two things. First of all, Russia is in agreement. Russia supports eagerly the orientation of Mr. Trump against globalism, globalists, against cancel culture, and his
Oh my God. Cancel culture, globalism, and cancel culture.
fight for restoration of traditional values. All that is very well accepted in Russia.
Yeah, we all accept fascism. And yeah, I get it. Russia likes fascism. Wonderful.
But I think in the terms of the realist geopolitics, there are so huge contradictions that I would say they stop precisely in the moment when these possible virtual probable negotiations start. In that moment, there will be the huge amount of misunderstanding on the deep level of the
On the deep level.
mutual understanding of the nature of the conflict in Ukraine.
Again, we have hindsight. This happened 10 months ago, so we will have a lot of fun analyzing this discussion, knowing how things have transpired. Actually,
That will prevent any possible solutions. So I agree once more with Mr. Mearsheimer that the result or the end of this bloody conflicts will be decided on the battlefield. So that will be no
okay, you might say that it will be decided on the battlefield, but it's not decided that Russia will win. Again, it all depends on how much Ukraine can adapt, on how much Ukraine can reform, on how much Ukraine can change its way of thinking about certain things on the battlefield. And it also depends on the support from the West, actual, tangible support from the West. And not just a lot of nice words, not just a lot of declaration, not just a lot of nothing. Yes.
armistice, no truce, no peace talks, but rather the weapon that will decide the fate, the destiny of these geopolitical conflicts. And that's beside, or I would say beyond a Russian great impression of Trump, because Trump is, in our eyes, he is defender of the
He is a fascist just like us, so we like him. Yes, I get it. I get it.
traditional values, and we applaud that. We totally agree with
We
that.
applaud his fascism.
Cancel, as Elon Musk recently has said, cancel culture should be canceled.
Oh,
So
God.
we
Beautiful slogans. Well done, Dugin. Cancel culture should be cancelled. Wokeness should be put to sleep. Yes, I've got my own slogans that sound equally good.
should stop with this left liberal agenda on the global level. In that sense, Russia will support absolutely that. But on the term or in the realm of the realist geopolitics, I think the contradictions will not
He's just repeating himself now.
disappear, or maybe will aggravate more.
If I can just pick up on what Professor Dugin was saying and make two additional points. He used the word existential threat. And I have long argued.
Oh my God, the buffering is so bad. My apologies. Like the internet is just not working very well. It has been happening today. I thought that would be better. I I have to connect the laptop to the cable. Probably start doing it from next stream, but yeah, well that's good. That's good. But the videos that I'm watching are buffering, so that's not good.
That it is imperative from a Western perspective to understand that putting Ukraine in NATO is an existential threat from Russia's perspective.
I hate that people say stuff like, oh, putting Ukraine in NATO is such an existential threat, when consistently Germany and the US have been opposing Ukraine being accepted into NATO. So it's not even been a topic on the table. It's just an excuse. Let's be honest.
And once you accept the fact that Russia views Ukraine in NATO as an existential threat, you realize just how dangerous the situation is, and you realize that the Russians will fight to the death.
Also, Russia doesn't just view Ukraine and NATO as an existential threat. Russia views Ukraine that is independent of Russia in any kind of way as an existential threat, and that is a huge difference. It's not just about NATO, it's about Ukraine moving away from Russia's sphere of influence, of Russia's control. This is very different than just NATO. Mr. Mearsheimer.
To prevent Ukraine from being in NATO, because it is an existential threat. It threatens their survival. The problem that you face in the West is that hardly anybody accepts that argument. And they will say that NATO expansion is not an existential threat to Russia.
Yeah,
And
I would rather say that Russia seems to be an existential threat to all the countries that beg to join NATO. And why do they beg to join NATO? Well, it is to defend themselves from Russia. Simple.
believe that what's going on here is that Putin is just an imperialist. He's an old-fashioned aggressor. He wants to create a greater Russia.
Yeah, he does. He is an old-style aggressor.
By incorporating Ukraine into it. And this has nothing to do with an existential threat. My argument is you may not think, you in the West may not think it's an existential threat, but what you in the
Putin knows what's best for Ukrainians, says Estelle. That's true.
West think is irrelevant. What matters is what the Russians think, and in particular, what Putin thinks.
Oh, well, what about what the Ukrainians think? Oh, never mind. They're not the big player. International relations realism does not care about such trivialities. Who cares? Who cares about Ukraine and Ukrainians?
And the Russians have made it perfectly clear, in my opinion, from the very beginning.
Yeah, but also Russia lies a lot. I hate it when Western pundits, intellectuals, professors, international relations experts just listen to Russia and take what they say at face value. You know what? Russia said it wouldn't invade Ukraine, and yet here we are. What do I care for what Russia says when Russia has lied time and time and time and time again? What a silly argument.
That Ukraine inside of NATO was unacceptable. It is an existential threat. Nevertheless, we continue.
IR realism is the worst way to think about IR. Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah. It's a very narrow lens of analysis.
To talk about bringing Ukraine into NATO, number one. And number two, if we don't talk about bringing in Ukraine, if we don't talk about bringing Ukraine formally into NATO, we talk about creating a situation where Ukraine is a de facto member of NATO, where there's a strong security relationship between the West, especially the United States, and Ukraine. This drives the Russians crazy. They view this as
Yeah, I know that the idea of Ukraine being safe from Russia drives Russia crazy. I know. As a Polish person, I really understand that sentiment. Trust me.
an existential threat. But we refuse to accept that. And if we refuse to accept that, and we refuse to take Ukraine in NATO off the table, you're never going to get an agreement.
Also, actually, it's been 10 months, first of all. And Trump has said several times that NATO is off the table. NATO has been effectively, who are we? I'm not even going to go into that. I'm not even going to go into who we are, but Trump has announced that NATO is off the table several times. And the war still continues. So what is this all about again? NATO's off the table. What now? Why is Russia still in Ukraine? I think Zelensky even asked that question several times. Wait, NATO's off the table now. So is Russia gonna leave? Is that gonna happen? No, this has never been about NATO. It has actually never been about NATO. Color me surprised. That blabbering about NATO. Even Dugin says in this little conversation that it's about something else than NATO, but Mearsheimer just doesn't. Mearsheimer just totally ignored that whole spiel that Dugin did about preserving the regime, the Russian regime, about how Russia should not, Ukraine that is not subservient to Russia should not exist. He just ignored all that very conveniently and started rambling about NATO.
And that's a point I think that both Professor Dugin and I agree on. The second point I would make is that the more we push to maintain a tight security relationship between the West and Ukraine, this is the de facto NATO argument, and the more we
Yeah, there's just, why can't Ukraine just be left defenseless against Russia? The Western chauvinism is showing from this little man.
talk about a de jure relationship where Ukraine is actually brought into NATO, the more we incentivize the Russians to capture additional territory in Ukraine and to destroy Ukraine. It's completely counterproductive.
Ah, yes, it is actually the West's fault that Russia wants to destroy Ukraine. Of course. That makes perfect sense, Mr. Mearsheimer. Perfect sense.
From Ukraine's point of view. It would be in the West's interest.
Yeah, it would be in Ukraine's best interest if it would just be left defenseless against Russia. Makes sense. Kviniana says, does Mearsheimer understand that he's talking to a Russian? Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, he does. Does not care.
And in Ukraine's interest to accept the fact that Ukraine cannot become a member of NATO and go to great lengths to come up with a genuine peace agreement. But because we in the
a
West,
genuine peace agreement is just giving Russia whatever it wants, I guess. Rewarding it for aggression. Great. Amazing. Who cares about Ukraine?
refuse to accept the argument that the Russians make that Ukraine and NATO is an existential threat. We continue to wave this threat in the face of the Russians. And the end result is the conflict will go on.
Yeah, secure Ukraine is a threat to Russia, don't you know? And therefore, Ukraine should be just left defenseless against Russia so that it can either put it under its control or just invade it at its leisure. That should be the status quo. That is how Russia is secure. What a stupid argument. But of course, people like Mearsheimer are all too eager to throw people like us under the bus. And by us, I mean Polish people, Ukrainians, Lithuanians, and all the other peoples in the region, really.
On, and in the end, Ukraine will be destroyed. It will end up as a dysfunctional rump state, and it will lose a lot of its territory
It's been 10 months, and that has not happened, so...
to Russia. And furthermore, this will be a humiliating defeat, not just for NATO, but for the West itself. So what I'm saying here is that by refusing to accept the fact that the Russians view NATO expansion into Ukraine as an existential threat, the West has basically...
I'm so tired of this NATO argument. The US has been opposing the process of Ukraine joining NATO. Germany has been opposing it. It has not been on the table. It's a tired argument.
shot itself in the foot and destroyed Ukraine in the process.
So I totally agree with that.
Vladimir says, why is Mr. Mearsheimer so horny about the word existential threat? I still don't get this. He's weird. I still don't get his weird kink. Well, you know. Mearsheimer is just very happy to have his realist theories, I don't know, just validated by this great Russian philosopher.
That is, I have remarked some years ago that the West has finished to think in the realist terms. So what is realism in the theory or practice? So you can imagine not only your position in the balance of power and international relations, but as well you take in consideration the position of the other. So you can think this way, but the other thinks differently. As realist, you put...
Yeah, that's great, but just because you take into consideration the position of the other, it doesn't mean that you just blindly accept it. Again, I'm gonna go back to World War II. Just because Hitler wanted a highway through Poland that would be neutral, and just because he wanted the free city of Danzig to become part of Germany, like he demanded those things of Poland, it doesn't automatically mean that the entire West and Poland should have went, wow, let's look at things from Nazi Germany's perspective, and maybe let's just give him what he wants. Like somehow, apart from Russia, because Russia actually does this, Putin has actually unironically said that that Poland should have given Hitler what he wanted, and that Poland provoked Nazi Germany into invasion. Like nobody uses this argument about World War II, that Germany felt threatened and that Poland and the West have just provoked Hitler into starting World War II. Because nobody cared about Nazi Germany's security interests. I mean, Russia makes that argument. Unironically, has been making that argument recently, interestingly enough. But also, Russia said that when the USSR invaded Poland together with Nazi Germany, it was not an invasion, it was a special military operation. Sound familiar?
Put on the balance both positions and you try to come to some rational solution. So that is maybe cynical, maybe outside of moral, but realism in the international relations precisely that. So
Thank you. I do like that shirt. Thanks.
So you evaluate the real capacity, the real possibility of the other than you, and you take that in consideration in calculation of your national interests. So that was starting from Morgenthau and Carr in the international relations. That is uninterrupted line of realist thinking. And I think that Mr.
Yeah,
Mearsheimer
realism is just when you give the aggressor in genocidal wars all that they want, because simply because they want it, you have to look at their perspective. They feel threatened and they decided, well, since we are so scared and threatened, our existence is at peril, so we have to just erase our neighbor. You see, just that makes perfect sense. You better not help them, because that means basically you're dooming them to die.
has explained it excellently. Everything is completely clear. If you consider Russia as an object in international relations, you could say we need to punish it, we need to put it in the border, we need to overthrow Putin and so on. But if
How about we need to not reward genocidal aggressions? We should not make it we should not make a bizarre precedent of big country with nuclear weapons can invade its smaller neighbor, grab land, end war, and just be rewarded for it. How about that? How's that calculate into international relations and realism?
you accept that that is not just object but subject, so you start to consider, to explore, to study its subjective perspective. And in this subjective perspective,
Again, you can study its subjective perspective all you want till the cows go home. You can analyze the goals of the country. You can treat it as a subject, but it does not mean that you blindly condone whatever it does, that you blindly agree to whatever it wants, and that you just give away whatever they demand. That is just a very, very silly conclusion. Those things are not mutually exclusive. You can do all these things, you can do all of that analysis. You can see, okay, let's look from their perspective what they want. Let's see what their goals are. Well, let's see what they were motivated by. But it does not mean that you have to all of a sudden go, oh, well, I guess we should just give them what they want. Stupid.
appears precisely what Mr. Mearsheimer
That's not realism. That's just being a schmuck on the international stage. That's just being Trump in relation to Putin.
has absolutely clearly defined as existential threat. And that is so. So for us, you can blame us, you can call us aggressors, imperialists, and so on. But for us, Ukraine in NATO means existential threat. And Mr. Mearsheimer has said one very important thing about the fight to the death. And if the existential threat is perceived as such in the eyes by the subject of the nuclear power as Russia, the death means not only the death for Russia or for Ukraine. The death in the case of nuclear power involved means as well the possible death of the Western Europe or
There you go. Here you go. He's saying it here directly. A nuclear power should do whatever it wants. It should be allowed to do whatever it wants because otherwise it just, you know, it might just end the world. It's just stupid argument upon stupid argument.
United States. The death means the death for everybody. So, and that is
Don't
precisely
forget that Russia has nukes, then that Russia might end everything. So you better give Russia whatever it wants.
what Mr. Putin wanted to emphasize some years ago when he has affirmed clearly that the world without Russia could not be tolerated by Russia. That is the nature and a deep dimension of an existential threat. If something threatens
You
you
can always manufacture an existential threat and make it a perfect excuse to attack all your neighbors.
existentially, you could prefer to destroy everything universe, life on the earth, humanity, everybody.
Translation: if we don't get what we want, we might just flip the table and destroy everything.
But you should save yourself. So the price
Pathetic.
is in the case of nuclear power with nuclear weapon capable to destroy humanity is very high. So it
Vladimir says, also imagine being schooled about your international relationships, realizing by some esoteric lover propagandist. Oof, must be very uncomfortable. True. That is why I like this discussion so much, because Mearsheimer considers himself this cold, calculating guy that just looks at relations between countries, the balance of power, how these things fit together, how these countries should have those smaller countries in their sphere of influence to create this balance. But then comes this guy that just talks about biologically unified ethnos and how there is a certain spiritual and existential value. It's just, I just want to see how these two people will mash together. I just want to see how they will interact together. So far, from what I'm seeing, Mearsheimer is doing all that he can to just ignore the ramblings of Dugin and say his own thing. They're not really interacting from what I'm seeing. Then Dugin is saying his thing, and then Mearsheimer is doing his thing. They're kind of begrudgingly nod to each other, saying, yeah, we kind of agree on elements, and then they just ramble. They just say their own thing, one after the other, without really interacting much. They just, he gives a speech, he gives a speech, he gives a speech, he gives a speech, and they don't really connect on anything. They're not really having a discussion, what I'm noticing. They're not having a back and forth. One guy rambles, second guy rambles, and they just do it on repeat.
maybe you could say
They are genuinely not having a back and forth at all. They're not addressing what they're saying. Not one is addressing what the other is saying. They just take the opportunity to ramble on whatever they want to say. That's not how conversations work. That should not be how conversations work.
that is crazy, that is
Crazy.
anti-humanist or something like that, maybe, but
I mean,
that is moral evaluation of what is going on. But on the level of the mutual realist understanding on
I don't
one
even know what Mearsheimer's take is on the whole anti-woke stuff, cancel culture, etc. When Dugin starts rambling about cancel culture, I might even know what Mearsheimer's take on that is.
what we think to be existential threat. So that we need to take that in consideration. For example, if Russia would invite Mexico in the military alliance with Russia and Mexico, and at the same time claims to restore the Texas and other ancient Spanish territories inside of United States now. So you can imagine what existential threat is it.
Okay, I have a few questions. What ancient thing within Russia is Ukraine stating that it wants to restore? Because he is using this as a direct one-to-one with the situation with Ukraine. Ukraine is being invited to NATO, which never happened, by the way. Ukraine has never been invited to NATO, but so that's neither here nor there. But that other part is interesting. Mexico wanting to restore the territory and take back the territories from the United States. So what kind of thing is Ukraine wanting to restore? This is just completely disanalogous example. Also, is the United States planning to control and invade Mexico? If Mexico was under a constant threat of being invaded by the US, then yeah, it would make sense for Mexico to seek some guarantees and to seek to join an alliance that would defend Mexico from an invasion. Like these situations are completely disanalogous and nonsensical.
For us, I am not speaking as Mr. Mearsheimer here. We are not speaking about moral, about liberalism, about values. We are speaking about interests. I appreciate very much. I have studied ideas of Mr. Mearsheimer about offensive realism. I completely agree with this line of thought. You could criticize that. You could.
I really have to emphasize the fact that they're not having a back and forth. They're just rambling. That they have just giving these long-winded rants without just even attempting to acknowledge what the other person is saying or addressing it in any way whatsoever. This is 3 hours. I'm not sure if I'm going to be watching 3 hours of this. Probably not. I'm probably not going to be watching 3 hours of Alexander Dugin talking to Mearsheimer. We're going to watch some of it, but we're not going to be watching 3 hours. I'm sorry. Maybe half an hour, maybe a bit more, depending on if anything interesting happens actually, but I think we're getting a picture. The buffering might be a bit bad since, I don't know, the internet's, again, not ideal.
Accept that, but that is absolutely brilliant exposition of what is going on in the reality. And maybe I think the lack of realism will play very bad job with Trump's new administration. The realism could solve this conflict.
Translation. Finally, realizing that Russia should get everything that it demands. Be realistic. Just give up everything. Just give up the 4 oblasts. Just ideally demilitarize Ukraine. Make it neutral so that Russia can take control of it. Be a realist. Accept that Ukraine is just part of Russia's sphere of influence.
Realist approach. When we involve the moral, liberal ideals, democratic values, and so on, we are losing the reality of the seriousness of the situation. And I think that Mr.
You know, when you
Mearsheimer
think of democracy and all those inconvenient things, you're just losing the seriousness of all things. Of course, you're just not being a realist enough for Dugin's and Mersheimers, I guess, liking.
has shown brilliantly what is on the stake.
There are actually many
What is on the stake? What? What is on the stake? Brilliant. I think that is a perfect summation of what's been happening. What is on the stake?
layers of questions that I have from the conversation just now is that
Very generous to call this a conversation. Conversation is typically a back and forth, but I've not seen a conversation. I've seen two people giving a speech. Rotating a speech. I've not seen that there's not been a conversation here.
we are in agreement here. Everything is well said and heard, but how many people do you think, I suppose I would direct a question to Professor Mearsheimer first, is that how many people do you think in the United States actually understand what we are discussing here?
Oh my goodness. What a question. What a question. My goodness. How stupid are Americans, Mr. Mearsheimer? Do any Americans follow the high ideas that we're proposing here? What? Oh my goodness.
Because it is about a world of perspectives, right? So you can argue that, hey, we are a benign hegemon, there's nothing to worry about. Well, it's not about what you think, it's about what the, Mr. Putin, what the Russian people think. So playing between
Oh, what about Ukrainian? Oh, whatever. Whatever. Ukrainian people?
a conflict between a war of perspectives and potentially with the nuclear weapons at stake. How many people side with you? How many people understand your perspective in America? And also,
Not enough. Not enough people agree with my perspective. People are evil and stupid. People are a stupid, superstitious lot. I need to strike fear into their hearts.
so to follow up on that is that, why the recent provocation, why the recent escalation? Calling on lowering military aid in Ukraine and allowing Ukraine to use American-made long-range missile by the Biden administration right before he's about to leave the office.
Oh my God. This is so stupid.
Why?
I think it's fair
Why is America helping Ukraine to defend itself? Why? Why can Ukraine just capitulate? Why? Please explain it to us, Mr. Mearsheimer. For realism.
to say that hardly any Americans accept my views on the Ukraine conflict.
Good.
And what really is happening here is, to use the rhetoric that Professor Dugin was using, it's almost impossible for most Americans to put themselves in the shoes of the other. In other words,
Okay. How capable are Russians to put themselves in the shoes of Ukrainians then? Oh, wait. Not at all.
Americans,
You know that works both ways, right? How hard are Russians working to put themselves in the shoes of the Ukrainians?
policy
Can I ask that question?
makers, American foreign policy elites are not good at thinking about how the Russians
Think of the genocidal invaders. Think of their perspective. Maybe they should be rewarded for their effort.
Might view Ukraine in NATO. They have their own views, which they think are the dominant views. This is captured in a very famous comment by Madeleine Albright in the late 1990s. She said, "We are the indispensable nation. We stand taller and we see further." Just think about those comments. We, the United States, we're special, we're exceptional, we stand
Oh my God, this is just America bad. Mearsheimer is just doing the America bad and it infuriates me.
taller, we see further. This is all a way of saying we know what is best for everybody else. We have the approved solution. And what's really happening here is that when the Cold War ended and the United States had won this tremendous victory and ended up as the unipole, the most powerful state in the system, with this liberal ideology, we thought
Liberal ideology. My goodness.
that we could spread liberalism all over the world, which is a way of saying we thought.
By the way, this is a kind of chauvinism and unironically exceptionalism that Mearsheimer himself is just showing here. All those countries, they don't have any agency. All these countries that were in the Soviet bloc, that were in the Soviet Union, they don't really have any independence, any sovereignty, any direction that they can take. No, it's just the United States spreading things on them. They're not entities. They're not really agents. They're just things to be controlled by either the US or Russia. Simple as, Mr. Realist.
But we had won, not just geopolitically, but we had won ideologically. And we were in a position where we could cause every other state in the system to become a liberal democracy like the United States. And we were so.
Yeah, that's not what happened in the slightest, by the way. The United States did not cause Poland to want to be a democracy. Actually, Poland just wanted to be a democracy because Poland wanted human rights, Poland wanted the freedom of the press, expression, and many of these other things that democracies enjoy.
Full of confidence that we could shape the world in our image, that we.
Yep, it's all about the United States. It's all about the United States. Okay, I'm tired. That's enough. It's enough of this conversation. We've circled around the drain. I don't think I wanna do this anymore. An hour of Mearsheimer and Dugin is long enough. We've done enough. I think I've added commentary. I don't think I've just called them dumb to address my detractors from a certain other video. I think we've done well, so we might as well move on. Might as well move on to greener pastures. And by greener pastures, we're gonna bash. What would you like me to continue watching this? I don't feel like continuing, actually. Okay, we're gonna do some. We're gonna do some. What happened, Estelle? Why the Why the I did well bashing Blair White, so I guess we're gonna bash Blair White some more. I got so many angry people going after me for criticizing Blair White, so I guess we're going to do that more. I promise I'll do my best to insert actual commentary. If Blair White makes an actual point, I will try to address it. I make a promise to try. I cannot guarantee that Blair White's gonna make a point, but if she does, I will answer. I will address it as best as I can, to the best of my ability. Let's see. I warned you. Gen Z is ditching trans ideology. This is the video that we've actually watched. Charlie Kirk deserved it. Reacting to actual demons. Whatever. I don't care. I don't care about that. Charlie Kirk. Don't care. The dark truth about UFOs. Why the government is lying. Yeah, I'm not descending into lunacy, so I'm not gonna. I am definitely gonna skip that one. I'm definitely not watching this. If anybody wants me to click on any of these in particular, trans ideology isn't real. Ah, yeah, that's true. I thought there was a video. Here's something that title. Is she a Nazi or do you just hate white people? Why? The media is lying about me. Is this a real person? It sounds something like Kyle Black and it's also AAJ. No, it's a real person. This is actually a real person. Lucy hates white people. True. Especially in the side chat. I went to a liberal protest and they crashed out on me. Did I? Whatever. Let's click on.
What do you think about?
Let's click on this. This is mercifully short. So. I've been told that Blair White is a very intelligent person. So let me see what kind of interview question does Blair White ask? I do interviews. I went to protests and I interviewed protesters. So I want to see what kind of interview questions does Blair White come up with.
Think about
with her social bullshit, just for the record.
It's buffering.
what social bullshit?
Social bullshit.
Oh, my whole.
Oh my God. Warzone.
What do you think about?
Warzone internet. Warzone internet. It is what it is.
What social bullshit?
Social bullshit.
Oh, my whole existence.
That's just a silly argument.
Warzone internet. Blair White was on Alex Jones' show. Oh yeah? Something white but also with 50 plus IQ. Impressive. Bro. Very impressive. Very nice. Very impressive stuff. But the video doesn't even want to load because the internet is just...
What do you think about?
With her.
God, I hate this. I hate what is going on. Also, while you're here, consider joining the page and donating or subscribing. Help me in my journalisms.
social bullshit, just for the record.
What social bullshit?
Social bullshit.
Oh, my whole
Yep, it's buffering very slowly.
What do you think about
With her social bullshit, just for the record.
Well, that's unfortunate. That is the unfortunate side effect of trying to do this from the war zone. Let's see how the internet is working on the phone. My sincerest apologies. I even feel like I've got my commentary mojo on right now. Ugh, ay. This is what happens. Sometimes the internet works pretty okay. Sometimes the internet just works like crap. Mm. Okay, let's try. Let's see.
what social bullshit?
Social bullshit.
Oh, my whole existence.
That's just a silly argument.
Okay.
We're done. We're done.
Why?
Why? Why?
Look at my stalker, the fake security guard, which is illegal.
Oh my god, this is like impossible to do anything like this. Whatever. I guess we're not doing it. Are all videos buffering like that, by the way?
With her social bullshit, just for the record.
What social?
Is only Blair White nonsense gonna load like that? I guess we're gonna have to watch something else. Andrei Kurulyov says Russia can defeat Ukraine in 30 minutes. No, it's just Blair White nonsense that buffers like this. Everything else buffers normally. Yeah.
Добрый вечер.
No,
В
never
эфире,
mind.
как обычно, в это время берега...
No, this buffer is better than Blair White actually. Maybe we'll just watch some other Blair White video. I want to bash Blair White. Okay, that is my deep desire. Okay. Responding to comments. Blah, blah, blah. All right, let's see. The downfall of the trans community. They fucked around and found out from 9 months ago. I do like to go back.
Is this the part where I say, I told you so? It started with weird pronouns being born in gender studies classes that no one took seriously until
Weird pronouns.
laws popped up compelling people's speech. Suddenly we had
Nobody compelled anybody's speech.
bathroom bills, as if society or even transsexuals ever had issues navigating basic human functions. What was
Yeah, the bathroom bills were anti-trans bills. They were trying to restrict trans people from using their preferred bathrooms. Like, it's not exactly trans people's fault that people wanted to restrict to which bathroom they can or cannot go. But I guess this nuance escaped Blair White.
once one or two underage transition stories in tiny liberal European countries became friend groups of teenage girls in every American city transitioning together. And then
Oh no, trans people meeting and exchanging experiences about being trans. Unforgivable sin.
everyone had to look at men beating women's asses in sports, children
Wait, so are trans women men according to Blair White? Men beating women? Does Blair White see herself as a man? Then why even transition? Does Blair White thinks that she's a man? Convenient still says, I love that her best example of an underage transition story is literally just someone being happy. True.
undergoing chemical castration and
Chemical try. Look at this poor kid crying.
sex change surgeries, men in women's prisons, nudity at the White House.
Men in women's prisons. She just sees trans women as men, which by extension means that she sees herself as a man. Just makes no sense. If you're gonna say that trans women in women's prisons are men in women's prison, then you just kind of don't see trans women as women at that point.
Senators who can't define what a woman is. Who would have ever thought that all that wouldn't
You cannot define what a woman is. You think that you're a man.
work out? Is this the part where I say, I told you so? Because
You told me what? Vladimir says, damn those pronouns. That's totalitarian and it violates my freedom. True. True. Why would you do that? Why would you violate my freedom?
I'm feeling like it's the part where I say, I told you so. And I am not going to hold your hand when I say this.
I don't want you to touch me in any way, shape, or form. Please don't. Please don't come near me. Oh my God.
Because protecting people's
Polina Estelle says, just like any figure on the internet, she thrives on self-satisfaction. True.
feelings is actually how we got here. And by here, I mean specifically, I think it's safe to say that we are officially at the point where
Who are we? I know we asked this question before in regards to Mearsheimer, but who are we?
the trans acceptance tipping point has in fact been
Tipped.
tipped. I think it's pretty apparent to anybody
Wow, so deep.
who knows how to check the cultural temperature in
The fuck is the cultural temperature? Cultural temperature. Buzzwords that mean nothing. Check the cultural temperature. Maybe the culture is sick. Maybe it needs a hot bath. Isn't Fable 1, 2, 3 on Steam? I can check, actually. I can actually check. Fable. Fable Anniversary, Fable The Lost Chapters, Fable... Oh, okay.
in any meaningful way, which is actually not a very sharp ability of the
It's just buffering.
trans community. I think it's pretty apparent that society has reached the point where it's just kind of a wrap for the
Society has just reached the point when it doesn't accept those dirty transes anymore. And then it's gonna go after those awful gays as well.
trans lunacy that is taken
Trans lunacy, and then the gay lunacy, the LGBT lunacy. The world is healing. Finally, we're getting back.
over the 2010s until now. Trump has truly, in the first
You're trans. How can you be talking about trans lunacy when you're trans? That makes no sense to me. Estelle says she's never talking to trans people. She's talking to people who want such a voice. Yeah, basically. As someone said in my previous Blair White video, she just says what people want to hear.
2 weeks met the cultural temperatures energy
The hell is a cultural temperature's energy?
and taken aim at the trans excesses,
What the hell are trans excesses? What do any of these terms mean? She gonna elaborate on any of it? Spoilers, no she's not. She's just gonna dump those empty slogans at us at a rapid pace.
excesses that have come out of trans ideology and the movement
The hell is trans ideology?
over the past decade or so, and rightfully so.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United
No, it's not just...
States government that there are only two genders.
And by genders, he means sexes, because he's gonna say male and female, because Trump does not know the difference between gender and sex, and I'm willing to bet neither does Blair White.
Male and female.
There you go. Male and female are not genders. Those are not gender terms. Those are sex terms, if anything. But whatever.
But even more relevant than the legal backlash is definitely
The
cultural
backlash.
cultural backlash that's
Of
occurring
course, of course.
right now that
I'm so proud of all the bigots that think that I'm a man.
have been screaming about from the rooftops and warning about for the past decade, that if the trans community and the LGBT
Oh, see, there you go. I knew it. And the LGBT community. overall. Just go back to the closet and things will be good.
community in general didn't shape up and
Yeah, shape up. Go back to the closet.
act right was going to
Act right, whatever that means. Just act right. Am I right? Just act right. It's all gonna be good. Oh, okay. It just froze. Perfect. No, this is just not working. I think I'm gonna end the stream here because this is not working out. The internet is just not working. We did a segment on Mearsheimer. I'm gonna, I don't know, send you somewhere. Is this? I'm not able to do anything. So very sad, but it's just unworkable. It is unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'm gonna raid you to someone that has functional internet, which actually nobody's streaming right now, so whatever. Left of the box, there you go. Just be normal, true. Just be normal. That is my advice for the end of the stream. Just be normal. Just be normal, people. Good night. I hope the internet will work better next time. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.